I still remember the first time I held the keys to my house. A small three-bedroom place in the suburbs of Lakewood, just outside Denver, Colorado. 12 years of working overtime, skipping vacations, and eating cheap meals had finally paid off. The day I signed those papers, I thought my life was complete. Then I made a decision that nearly cost me everything. I invited my mother, Linda, to come see my new place. I thought it would finally bring us closer. What happened next changed me forever. Before I continue, let me know in the comments where you are watching from today. If stories about family betrayal and standing up for yourself resonate with you, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. What happened next taught me that sometimes the people who should protect you are the ones you need protection from. Growing up in a small town in Ohio, I learned early that not all mothers are the same. My dad, Richard, was a car mechanic who worked 6 days a week just to keep food on the table. He would come home exhausted, his hands stained with grease, but he always found time to help me with homework or throw a baseball in the backyard. My mother, Linda, was a different story. She always complained about our life. The house was too small. The car was too old. The neighbors were too boring. Nothing was ever good enough for her. I remember sitting at the kitchen table as a kid watching the clock tick past 7, then 8, then 9 at night. My dinner would go cold while I waited for her to come home from wherever she had been. Sometimes it was shopping with friends. Sometimes it was drinks at a bar downtown. She never really explained, and I learned not to ask. When I was 10 years old, my parents sat me down and told me they were getting a divorce. I was sad, but honestly, part of me was relieved. The fighting would finally stop. What I did not expect was what came next. When it was time to decide who I would live with, my mother did not fight for me. She did not even hesitate. She looked at me with those distant eyes and said words I will never forget. "You will be fine with your dad. I need to find myself." Just like that, she packed her bags and walked out of my life. I was 10 years old watching my mother choose herself over me. My dad held me that night while I cried, promising me that everything would be okay. And eventually it was. But that wound never fully healed. After high school, I knew I had to build something for myself. I got a part-time job at an auto parts store, sweeping floors and stocking shelves. It was not glamorous, but it was honest work. I saved every dollar I could while studying to become an HVAC technician. Heating and cooling systems might not sound exciting, but it was a trade that paid well and was always in demand. At 22, I made the decision to move to Denver. Ohio held too many memories, and I needed a fresh start. For 10 years, I worked my way up. I started as an apprentice, then became a certified technician, and eventually got promoted to lead installer at a reputable company. I lived in small apartments, drove used cars, and rarely ate out. Every extra dollar went into my savings account. I watched that number grow slowly but steadily. 2,000 became 10,000. 10,000 became 50,000. 50,000 became the down payment on my dream. The day I closed on my house was the proudest moment of my life. A 3-bedroom home in Lakewood priced at $285,000. I put down 20% from my own savings. Not a gift from anyone. Not an inheritance. Just 12 years of hard work and sacrifice. When the realtor handed me the keys, my hands were shaking. I walked into that empty house and stood in the living room, tears streaming down my face. I had done it. I had built something real, something that was completely mine. 6 months after I moved in, I got a message on Facebook that made my heart skip a beat. It was from my mother. She said she had divorced her second husband and was going through a difficult time financially. She wanted to reconnect. She wanted to see how I was doing. She said she had made mistakes and wanted to make things right. I stared at that message for hours. Part of me wanted to ignore it to protect myself from more disappointment. But another part of me, that 10-year-old boy who watched his mother walk away, still wanted her love. I wrote back. I told her about my house, my job, my life in Colorado. She seemed genuinely interested and happy for me. She asked if she could come visit just for a few weeks to spend some time together and rebuild our relationship. Against my better judgment, I said yes. I cleaned the guest room until it sparkled. I bought fresh flowers for the dining table. I imagined us cooking dinner together, watching movies, finally having the mother-son relationship I had always wanted. When Linda arrived at the airport, I noticed she had 4 large suitcases. That seemed like a lot for a few weeks, but I told myself she was probably just being prepared. We hugged awkwardly and drove back to my place. The first thing she did when she walked through the door was look around with an expression I could not quite read. "Nice place," she said. "How much did you pay for it?" I told her the price, feeling proud. She nodded slowly. "And where do you keep the paperwork, the deed and all that?" I laughed nervously. "Just curious," she added quickly. "I want to learn about real estate." I brushed off the question and showed her to her room. Looking back, I should have paid more attention to that moment. The warning signs were there from the very beginning. The first 2 weeks with Linda were actually pleasant. We went out for dinners, visited some local attractions, and talked about everything except the past. I started to believe that maybe people really could change. Maybe my mother had grown and matured. Maybe this was the fresh start we both needed. But 2 weeks turned into a month, and a month turned into 2 months, and Linda showed no signs of leaving. Slowly, she began to change things around the house. At first, it was small stuff. She moved a lamp from one side of the room to another. She rearranged the kitchen cabinets. I did not mind. I wanted her to feel comfortable. But then the changes became bigger. One day I came home from work to find that she had moved my couch into the garage and replaced it with a different one she had bought without asking me. My personal photos were taken down and stored in a closet. She said they were cluttering the walls. Then she started inviting her friends over. Women I had never met would show up at my door, and Linda would introduce them to what she called our home. I overheard her telling one of them that she had helped me buy the place, that she had invested significantly in the property. I was stunned. None of that was true. I tried to talk to her about it one evening. I sat down across from her and gently asked what her plans were. How long was she thinking of staying? Did she have any ideas about getting her own place? The moment those words left my mouth, she started crying, big dramatic tears rolling down her cheeks. "How can you ask me that?" she sobbed. "After everything I have done for you, I am your mother. I thought you wanted to reconnect. I thought you loved me. I felt terrible. Maybe I was being selfish. Maybe I needed to be more patient." I apologized and dropped the subject. A few days later, I came home from a long shift to find that the lock on the master bedroom had been changed. Linda met me at the door with a casual smile. "I switched rooms," she said. "The master bedroom has better light, and it is better for my health." I stood there, speechless. She had taken over my bedroom in my own house. I spent that night in the smaller guest room, staring at the ceiling, wondering how things had spiraled so far out of control. Things escalated further when Linda started calling family members. I did not know about these conversations until my phone started blowing up. First, it was my Aunt Patricia, my mother's younger sister who lived in California. She called me one evening, and before I could even say hello, she was yelling at me. "How dare you treat your mother this way?" she screamed. "She gave you everything. She helped you buy that house, and now you want to throw her out on the street? I tried to explain that none of that was true. I told Patricia that I had bought the house entirely with my own money, that I had the paperwork to prove it. She laughed bitterly. Your mother told me you would say that. She told me you would lie and try to make her look bad. I could not believe what I was hearing. Linda had gotten to them first. She had planted her story in their minds before I even knew what was happening. Then came a message from my Uncle Harold, Linda's older brother. It was a long text calling me ungrateful, selfish, and a disappointment to the family. He said he was ashamed to be related to me. Even my grandmother called crying and saying I had broken her heart. Every time I tried to send proof bank statements, the deed to my house, anything, they dismissed it. Linda had told them I would fabricate evidence. They believed her completely. I felt more alone than I had ever felt in my life. The family I had always wanted to be close to had turned against me based on lies. And the worst part was that the liar was my own mother. But Linda was not done. A few weeks later, I started receiving strange mail. Credit card statements for accounts I had never opened. I called the credit card company, and they confirmed that someone had applied for a card in my name. The application used my social security number and my home address. Over $8,000 had already been charged. I knew immediately who was responsible. I confronted Linda that night. I showed her the statements and demanded an explanation. She did not even try to deny it. Instead, she got angry. That money is mine, she shouted. I deserve it. I gave birth to you. I raised you. You owe me everything you have. I told her that she was wrong, that she had abandoned me when I was 10, that she had never contributed a single dollar to my house or my life. She responded by picking up a set of ceramic dishes I had bought to decorate the kitchen and smashing them on the floor one by one. I spent the next few days working with the bank to freeze the fraudulent accounts and protect my credit. I also made a decision. I told Linda that she needed to leave my house within 30 days. She looked at me with cold eyes and said something that sent chills down my spine. You will regret this. I am not going anywhere. 2 weeks after I asked Linda to leave, I received an envelope in the mail that changed everything. It was a legal summons. My own mother was suing me for ownership of 50% of my house. The basis of her claim was that she had contributed $80,000 toward the purchase of the property. She alleged that we had a verbal agreement that she would own half the house in exchange for her investment. I read through the documents with shaking hands. Linda had hired a lawyer and submitted evidence to support her claims. There were bank statements that appeared to show transfers from her account to mine. There were text messages that suggested we had discussed the arrangement. There were even 3 sworn statements from her friends claiming they had heard her talk about helping me buy the house years ago. It was all fabricated. Every single piece of evidence was a lie. But it looked convincing. It looked real. I did not sleep that night. I lay in bed thinking about everything I could lose. The house I had worked 12 years to buy. The only real thing I had ever owned. The symbol of everything I had overcome. And now my mother was trying to take it from me in court. I did not have money for an expensive lawyer. I had put everything I had into this house. For a moment, I felt completely hopeless. But then something shifted inside me. I was not that abandoned 10-year-old anymore. I was a grown man who had built a life through hard work and determination. I was not going to let anyone take that from me, not even my own mother. I started researching Colorado real estate law obsessively. I spent every night after work reading legal documents, court cases, anything I could find. I learned about property rights' burden of proof and what it takes to prove ownership in a dispute. Then I found Marcus. He was a young lawyer who specialized in family disputes and property cases. His fees were reasonable, and more importantly, he believed me. When I showed him my evidence, the real evidence, his eyes widened. "You have a strong case," he said. "We can win this. But we need to be thorough." For the next 3 weeks, Marcus and I built our defense. I gathered every financial record I had from the past 12 years. Pay stubs, tax returns, bank statements, savings account histories. Every single dollar I had ever earned and saved was documented. The deed to my house had only one name on it: mine. The mortgage application showed only my income and my credit. The bank confirmed in writing that the down payment came entirely from my personal savings account, with no external transfers. But I had one more piece of evidence, something Linda did not know about. When she had first started threatening me, when she told me she would take everything I had, I started recording our conversations. Colorado is a one-party consent state, which means I only needed my own permission to record. I had captured everything. Her admitting she never gave me any money. Her saying she deserved half my house simply because she was my mother. Her threatening to destroy me if I did not comply. The day of the trial arrived. Jefferson County Courthouse. I walked into that courtroom feeling nervous but ready. Linda sat at the other table with her lawyer, smiling confidently. She was wearing an expensive outfit and pearl earrings. Behind her sat Patricia Harold and a few of her friends, all there to support her. I looked at my side of the room. It was just me and Marcus. But that was enough. Linda's lawyer went first. He presented the fabricated bank statements, the fake text messages, the sworn statements from her friends. Then Linda took the stand. She transformed into a grieving mother. She cried as she told the judge about the sacrifices she had made for me. She said she had given me her life savings so I could achieve my dreams. She said I had promised her half the house and was now trying to cheat her out of what was rightfully hers. It was an incredible performance. Then it was our turn. Marcus stood up calmly and began presenting our evidence. He showed the judge my complete financial history. 12 years of documented savings, every paycheck, every deposit, every careful decision that had led to my down payment. He presented the letter from the bank confirming the source of my funds. He showed the deed with only my name, the mortgage application with only my information. Linda's lawyer tried to argue that verbal agreements could override written documents. Marcus countered with legal precedents, showing that property ownership required clear evidence of contribution. Then Marcus looked at the judge and said he had one more piece of evidence to present. He asked permission to play an audio recording. The courtroom fell silent as my mother's voice filled the room. "I never gave you a dime for this house," her voice said clearly. "But I deserve half of everything you have. You owe me for giving birth to you." The recording continued with her threatening me, admitting she had no claim, saying she would make my life miserable if I did not give her what she wanted. I watched Linda's face drain of color. Her lawyer sat frozen, unable to respond. The judge listened to the entire recording without expression. When it finished, there was complete silence in the courtroom. The judge's ruling was decisive. The evidence presented by the plaintiff was deemed not credible. The audio recording demonstrated clear intent to defraud. My ownership of the house was upheld entirely. Linda was ordered to vacate the property within 30 days and to pay my legal fees. As the judge spoke, I did not feel triumph. I looked at my mother, this woman who had given birth to me, and felt only emptiness. She would not meet my eyes. She gathered her things and walked out of the courtroom without looking back. Some of the family members followed her, shooting angry glances at me. It was over. I had won. But it did not feel like victory. The weeks after the trial were some of the hardest of my life. I had my house. I had my justice. But I felt broken inside. I had just defeated my own mother in court. I had listened to her lies and watched her try to steal from me. I had seen relatives I had hoped to build relationships with turn their backs on me. The house felt too quiet, too empty. I would sit in the living room at night, unable to enjoy the space I had fought so hard to keep. Most of my family cut contact with me after the trial. Aunt Patricia blocked my number. Uncle Harold sent one final message saying I was dead to him. My grandmother never called again. Linda herself disappeared. I heard through distant relatives that she had moved to another state. She never apologized. She never acknowledged what she had done. Part of me still hoped she would reach out, that she would finally be the mother I needed. But that call never came. I knew I needed help processing everything. I found a therapist who specialized in family trauma. Talking to her helped me understand that the guilt I felt was not truly mine. I had not done anything wrong by protecting what I had built. I learned about something called imposed guilt, where manipulative people make you feel responsible for their problems. Linda had been doing that my entire life. From the day she left when I was 10, she had taught me that her happiness was my responsibility. Breaking free of that pattern was one of the hardest things I have ever done. Slowly, I started to rebuild. I reconnected with old friends who had supported me through the trial. People like Marcus, who had believed in me when no one else did. I met someone at work named Diane, a woman around my age who had gone through her own family struggles. We would have lunch together and share our stories. She understood the complicated grief of losing family members who were still alive. She showed me that I was not alone. I also started volunteering at a legal aid center that helped people with low incomes navigate property disputes. I met others who had been through similar situations. Parents trying to take from children. Siblings fighting over homes. Family members who believed that blood entitled them to ownership of things they had never earned. Being able to help others gave me a sense of purpose. It turned my pain into something meaningful. 1 year after the trial, I hosted a small gathering at my house. Not family, but friends. Real friends who had stood by me. We had dinner and laughed and talked about the future. As I looked around the room, I realized something important. Family is not just about blood. It is about the people who choose to be in your life. The people who support you without conditions. The people who love you for who you are, not for what you can give them. I still think about Linda sometimes. I wonder if she ever reflects on what she did. I wonder if she feels any regret. But I have stopped waiting for her to change. I have stopped hoping for an apology that will never come. Forgiving her does not mean letting her back into my life. It means releasing the anger and resentment so they no longer control me. It means choosing peace over bitterness. My house still stands in Lakewood, just outside Denver. But it is more than 4 walls and a roof now. It is proof that I can overcome anything. It is a reminder that I built something real through my own effort and determination. It is a symbol of the life I chose to create, not the one that was handed to me. Sometimes the hardest battles we fight are not against strangers, but against the very people who were supposed to love us unconditionally. And sometimes winning is not about defeating the other person. It is about learning to love yourself enough to set boundaries. It is about understanding that you deserve to be protected, even if the threat comes from within your own family. If you have ever been through something similar, if you have ever had to stand up against someone who should have been on your side, I want you to know that you are not alone. Your feelings are valid. Your boundaries matter. And you are allowed to protect the life you have built, no matter who tries to take it from you. I would love to hear from you in the comments. Have you ever had to set difficult boundaries with family? Have you ever had to choose yourself over someone who was supposed to love you? Share your story below. We are all in this together. If this story touched you in any way, please hit that like button. It helps more people find these stories and know they are not alone. Subscribe to the channel so you do not miss future videos. And if you know someone who might need to hear this today, share this video with them. Sometimes knowing that others have survived similar situations is exactly what someone needs. Thank you for watching and for being part of this community. I hope you remember that you are worthy of respect, of love, and of protection. Take care of yourselves, and remember the home you build is yours to keep.